I'm Bridie O'Donnell, welcome to Vibe Racing. The Tour de France is still vibrating in my bones after that finale at Montmartre and along the Champs-Élysées. Tadej Pogačar joined cycling's most exclusive club, 5 Tour victories. When his team faltered, he blew our minds on Alpe d'Huez and then he moonlighted as a superdomestique. The Americans, Sepp Kuss crashed twice in the closing stretch of the Queen stage, and Quinn Simmons was named best teammate again. Stay tuned for this week's spicy take because it might change how you feel about the Tour de France.
Yo, the race just finished, but the breakdown's just begun. How the race was won, analyze the split-second stun. This is Vibe Racing. Vibe Racing! Yeah.
Tadej Pogačar sealed yellow in far from boring fashion, finishing 6 minutes clear of the best mountain version of Remco Evenepoel we've ever seen. Isaac del Toro rounded out the podium and he nabbed white in his Tour debut. But it was how Pogačar did it that had my commentary team debating each other. More on that in a minute. Here's 5 things we learned at this year's Tour. The Maillot Jaune. Pogačar doesn't chase records, he chases fun. And guess what? He doesn't care what we think. Bored of only winning everything? Try a new skill, ride for your teammate instead of crushing everybody else. Podcast bros will debate whether or not he's even chasing Cavendish's 35 stage wins. It doesn't matter, Pogačar just loves to race. And in this Tour de France we learned he loves his team even more. In the Maillot Blanc, well, we learned that Isaac del Toro's most tactical masterstroke was picking the right best friend. He and Tadej share a manager, they share a hunger for winning and a near-identical physiology. And Isaac has become Tadej's cool new project. Pogačar looked happiest lifting Isaac after that gifted stage 2 win, and he blew our minds doing superdomestique duty in Alpe d'Huez. On stage 20, he titled his Strava activity Vamos Toro once white was secured. It's a beautiful thing, this thing, until it isn't. So here's hoping the bromance holds. In the Maillot Pois, Richard Carapaz is sly like a fox and still climbs like a mountain goat. Now that he can't compete for podiums, this Grand Tour winner has totally reinvented himself. He didn't panic when he lost time in the first week, and he conserved energy for the last week. If Education Easy Post can't outspend the big budget teams, so their entire business model is to out-attack and out-suffer everyone else. Carapaz's tally across the final 3 stages, first, third, first, and super combatif. In the Maillot Vert, Mads Pederson is a total beast. When he saw the new point system, he said he figured he had no shot at green, so he did what any smart person does, he adapted. It helps that he's a world-class athlete with a fully committed team, but he still had to make the breaks, attack them, bridge, be the fuga de la fuga, bank the points, and place top 10 in every sprint, and not crash, or get sick, or get dropped when it mattered. As I said, a beast. What were you doing at 19? I was just a second-year med student trying to become a triathlete and getting my ass kicked. Paul Seixas was carrying the weight of an entire nation, the youngest rider to start the Tour de France since 1937. No 3-week experience, impossible pressure, insane expectations, and he finished 4th. This is the most important result by a French cyclist since Julien Alaphilippe won Worlds 5 years ago, and Seixas delivered.
Americans in the mix, a new golden era, no fiction. Attacking in the climbs with tactical conviction. This is Vibe Racing. Vibe Racing! Yeah.
Well, no American won a stage or cracked the top 10, but Sepp Kuss, Quinn Simmons, Sean Quinn and Matthew Riccitello shone in their team roles, finishing in the top 25 overall. Impressive. Quinn Simmons was, quintessential Simmons. He drove the break of the winning move on stage 4, he did enough work for Pederson's green jersey and the team's GC riders that the jury named him best teammate of the Tour 2nd year running. Add a viral high five with his dad and a Talladega Nights tracksuit, and Quinn was one of the most entertaining riders of this Tour. Sepp Kuss was Vingegaard's mountain lieutenant until his leader crashed out on stage 15, and then he got a license to hunt for himself. With Matteo Jorgenson's help, he nearly delivered the American story of the Tour, soloing towards a stage 20 win on Alpe d'Huez. But Sepp crashed twice in the final 5 miles, once into a curb, once on a hairy descent, and still hung on for 3rd behind Carapaz. He finished 13 overall, the top American. Gutsy, death-defying, but borderline heartbreaking. Well, Sean Quinn was back from a career-threatening knee injury, but he made the break on Foix in stage 4 and briefly sat at 2nd overall, just 28 seconds off yellow. It didn't hold, and he did fade from GC contention once the real mountains hit, but then he worked like a Spartan for Carapaz in week 3. He finished 19th overall, which is a huge leap from 78th at his only other Tour de France. And it's proof positive that the purpose you have can elevate you further than you'd ever imagine. Congrats to Sean. Well, Matthew Riccitello spent his first Tour de France as Paul Seixas mountain lead-out man, which is no small job given he finished 4th overall. Riccitello survived a crash in the first week and a near miss off the Galibier descent on stage 20, still working for his French wunderkind. He finished 24th overall, which is a promising sign for this elite climber. Well, Brandon McNulty was brilliant for the first 2 weeks and then it all went wrong. He was essential in the mountains while Pogačar built his lead, but then he got brake checked by a cranky driver en route to the stage 16 time trial and got a throat infection which spiralled by stage 18 and had to abandon. Sporting a new shock of blonde dyed hair that pro hairdressers hope to never see again, he celebrated with the team on the Champs-Élysées. Well, this was not Matteo Jorgenson's best tour, but we still heard plenty of him via Victor Campenaert's vlogs, and he delivered the best day of his race on stage 18 at Montmartre, finishing 3rd. Matteo was also crucial to Sepp's efforts on both Alpe d'Huez days, coming away 30th overall.
Spicy Bites!
Okay, this was the hottest tour in history, and I'm not talking about podium models whose entire job is to be really, really ridiculously good looking. The average temperature across the first 9 stages hit 32.4 degrees, that's 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Stages were shortened to keep spectators and emergency services safe, and riders drank more and poured more water on themselves than I've ever seen in 7 years covering the race. All of which means we are on a collision course. Tour organisers are going to need to weigh up their benefits of French TV's precious 5:30 p.m. broadcast slot against actual human survival. The riders, staff, fans, even us poor long-suffering commentators. Who do you think's going to win in that one? Well, the organisers shortened stage 21 because of the heat and because of risk for bushfires, which is fair enough. But when word came that GC would be neutralised too, despite 0 rain forecast, I was angry. Make them race, I screamed like some sort of deranged Roman emperor from my commentary booth. I was very wrong though, because a live GC would have had Pogačar dropping back to babysit Del Toro's podium after the Mexican's puncture, and instead it was pure dopamine. On the second of 3 laps, we got fireworks. Pogačar, Evenepoel, Van der Poel and Pederson blasted off the front. These are 4 world champions battling it out. And the finish, oh my God, goosebumps. Van der Poel dropped Pogačar and outlasted the chase by sheer will and utter suffering. Let's turn to Pogačar's Alpe d'Huez performance on stage 19. Forget the stage win, forget the Strava KOM. Pogačar's Alpe d'Huez was an absolute tour de force. After Vingegaard crashed out, Remco had a glimmer of hope and a stage win. Then more time got clawed back in the TT. And while UAE bled from every single flesh wound, Yates was sick, Wellens was gutted, McNulty abandoned, for the first time of the tour, the peloton started whispering, is UAE vulnerable? So what does Pogačar do with a battered team and a target on his back? He doesn't defend, he attacks. 12 kilometres out, he ate the breakaway alive. He dropped Kuss, Martinez and Carapaz and obliterated a 31-year-old Pantani record by 1 minute and 20-ish seconds. Remco, the closest chaser and more than 2 minutes back, got the message loudest of all. Yellow, untouched, domination. Absolutely, message received. Well, that's it for this week's Vibe Racing. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and share it with a cycling friend. And I want to hear from you. What are your spicy takes from the week in bike racing? Drop them below. For the Vibe Racing team, I'm Bridie O'Donnell. See you next week.
This is Vibe Racing. Vibe Racing. We keep the culture live. Vibe Racing. Come on, let's ride with Vibe Racing. The future is now. Vibe Racing. Yeah.